Hi, and welcome to Code Corner. My name is Ryan Mayfield. I'm founder of Mayfield Renewables. And this is a video series where we go through different code sections that apply to PV and energy storage systems. And today we're going to be talking about the 2020 NEC and Article 690 Part 6, which covers marking. So I'm going to cover just a couple of the key sections within that and kind of give some visuals on what those requirements are. So let's start off with 690.53. So the code language is here on the left-hand side. And what the code requirement here is that for DC PV circuits, we need to have a readily visible label indicating the highest maximum DC voltage of the PV system calculated by 690.7. We have other videos, there's other resources we have for you to how to calculate that 690.7 value. But what this code requirement is saying, and we have a picture here on the right of an example of a label showing that maximum voltage. But 690.7, if you recall, talks about the highest voltage at the lowest temperature for the PV array. So PV modules have the inverse relationship. The voltage has an inverse relationship with temperature. So the colder it gets, the higher the voltage goes. So that's what 690.7 is going to tell you, is that you have to calculate that voltage. And this is a label telling you what that voltage is. It's, the thing with this code is the requirement is there, and you have to go through and do the calculation. It's one of those things. It's good for the day it was installed, for that specific time. The intent here is to give a technician who's coming up later the ability to come up, look at what that is, and have an understanding of what the voltage is that they're going to be working with. It's not an expectation that they're going to see, in this case, in this picture, 1,469.2 volts on their meter when they put it on there, but they just have an idea of what that voltage might be. So a lot of our systems, are going to be limited at voltage based on residential versus commercial rooftop mount versus a ground mount. We have different voltage values that will our maximum allowable voltages, but this is an actual calculated value. And the code goes on to talk about, where you need to have this. And so you need to have it on the DC PV system disconnecting means. You can have it on the power conversion equipment and distribution equipment. So all of these locations, essentially, a location where a technician might open up the panel, open up the disconnect, and have access to those terminals is where you're going to want to put this label. In the picture that we have here, they also included maximum circuit current. The label, as it stands in 2020, you can see here, calls out specifically the voltage. The current's not a bad idea to put on there. It was previous code versions. Going back a number of versions, we actually had 4 or 5 pieces of information we had to list on there. So the code has changed over the different years, and so make sure you check your current version that you're on, because you may have less information that you need to provide, as is indicated here. Only the DC voltage is what's required, as opposed to what was included for this specific label that we're showing the picture of. The next section is 690.54, and this is interactive system point of interconnection. So again, the code language here on the slide for you. And really what code is saying here is we need to have a label that is showing the nominal voltage and the AC output current of your system, wherever it is you're making that point of interconnection. So in this picture, we have a breaker. Our PV system is being fed to this panel. The interconnection point is this breaker inside this panel. And so we have a label here that is indicating, what it is. It's a photovoltaic system, and we're indicating the dual sources of power, and we have the rated output current and the nominal voltage. So you can see this is a 480 volts system operating at 320 amps. Again, the idea here is thinking of the people that are coming up behind you, being able to see this label, understand what that breaker is doing, in this case, the source of the power is. It's not a load, so what that source is, and being able to make sure that they are accessing that in a safe manner, and being able to isolate the PV system as well when they need to. And then the last one that I'm going to go through here with us in this specific episode, talking about identification of power sources. And so this is 690.56 and specifically B. So facilities with utility services and PV systems, we have to install a plaque in accordance with 705.10 and 712.10 as required. And really what this is doing is this is telling the technician or whoever's coming up and needing to service this equipment, this is saying where the equipment's located. This is saying where your disconnecting means are. So if you have a service disconnect that's remote from the PV system disconnect, you would have those indicated on this label just so that somebody would have it be able to effectively know where all of the disconnecting means for that service are, including the PV system. And you can see in the image that we have here, we've included a "you are here" type label or a note on the label, which we've seen a lot of jurisdictions ask for and require. And it's a useful piece of information. So it just helps, taking the guesswork out of it. If this is a firefighter or first responder that's coming up and they need to understand what they're looking at or where they're at, this is really helpful just because they're trying to move fast and not making them guess and trying to orient themselves around the building. So it's always something that we recommend, putting the "you are here" type thing. And very often these labels are going to be the same. It's essentially the same label, but if you have multiple disconnecting means, you're just changing where the person is. So you're still identifying all of that equipment in that location. So you have to look in 705.10 and 712.10 just to make sure you're meeting those requirements as well. But this is one of those labels that you can use for multiple requirements with a single label. So that's just something that, I know that PV systems 690, they have a lot of label requirements, but this is one of those cases where we can use the same label to meet multiple requirements for the system. All right, so that does it for this episode of Code Corner. We covered this and other NEC topics in great detail in the workshops that we provide both in person and online. And our team also offers design and engineering services, as well as consulting services for PV and energy storage manufacturers and EPCs. You can find out more about us by giving us a call or visit our website at mayfield.energy.